How about that?
How about that?
Holy cow. The Eagles win another Super Bowl, and this one was not close. 40-22, the final score in Super Bowl 59. Rube, that's misleading. They took it to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I think, and you just look at the score, I think, and they scored a couple cheesy touchdowns at the very end, but I mean, this was a 34-0 game late in the third quarter. And that's kind of, to me, that's what that game was. Whatever the final score was is fine. But this was a demolition, and this was as good a defensive performance you'll see ever in a Super Bowl, in any game. And it's kind of a shame that the final numbers don't really represent that. But if you watch that game, you saw the Eagles' defensive front just not letting Patrick Mahomes do anything, not letting their running game do anything. They just dominated this game, whether it was Josh Sweat, Jalen Carter, Milton Williams. As a group, they just didn't let Patrick Mahomes do anything for three quarters. And it was a masterpiece in coaching by Vic and in playing by the defense.
Yeah, pretty unbelievable. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast, by the way. We're presented by Nissan. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. My voice is not exactly here. I was in that locker room after the game shouting questions at players at point blank range because it was so loud. I kind of want to start there, Rube. That was the craziest locker room I've ever seen.
Yeah, we showed a lot of footage from in there, and it certainly looked that way.
Now, I've always seen like the baseball clubhouses when they win a World Series, even a round, they tape everything up and they spray beer and champagne. I've never seen that in the NFL. I saw it tonight, and I wore it tonight. And I'm still wearing it a little bit.
Did you get doused a little bit?
A little bit. Nolan Smith was the main culprit. I think after a while he was doing it to me on purpose, but it was a lot of fun to be in there. And we'll talk about the game, obviously, but I think the celebration is indicative of just how close this team is. And I think that kind of stood out as we're standing in the locker room, that like this team has been really close all year. And it's something that Nick Sirianni really wanted from his team. And it's tough to just tell guys, hey, we want you to be close. You have to go through the motions of it, and you have to actually do it. This team's really close. Like talking to Nakobe Dean after this game, unfortunately for him, he couldn't be right in the mix of everything in the celebration. He had to protect himself, but like just how much they included him was really cool. And you can just see like everyone on this team was so close by the end of the year that they have a game like this and they share that moment afterward. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you could see it as the year went on. You could really feel it just being in the locker room, and we're in there every day, and just being in the building and seeing the guys interact with each other. You could really sense it, and I think that's really the strength of the team. And that's, to me, that's Nick Sirianni's greatest triumph as a coach, is kind of fostering that culture and bringing these guys so close to each other. It's not an easy thing to do. You're talking about pro athletes who have incentives and contracts and free agency and a lot at stake. And he got these guys to really play for each other in a very special way. And I think that's kind of that's what I remember most about this team is just how much they played for each other, how they put their own personal goals and accolades and honors to the side, and just did it for their friends and their brothers and their teammates. And I don't think that's a common thing. I really don't. I think it does make them a better team on the field because they're playing for each other. And it's tough to beat that. When you have that kind of unity, it's tough to stop it. And they're really good players too. And that's a big part of it. If you're the Panthers and you're good friends, it's not going to help you win a Super Bowl. But if you have the talent to work with, and then you have that sense of doing it for each other, it's a really powerful thing.
Yeah, they certainly have the talent. And that was something we talked about going into this game. It was like, it was kind of confusing to us, at least, that the Chiefs were favored in this game. Like, yes, you can say they have this great quarterback. By the way, Jalen outplayed him tonight, but like the Eagles were just the better team. They have more talent from top to bottom, and that showed up in a big way. we even talked about it. Neither of us picked a blowout, but we said if there was going to be a blowout, it would be this way. It wouldn't be the other way. The Chiefs didn't have enough firepower to blow out the Eagles. We knew the Eagles had enough firepower to do this if they played their perfect game. And it's amazing. They saved their two best games of the year for the NFC Championship game and now the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's true. And during the day, I found myself thinking, why can't they blow them out? Like, I couldn't come up with a good reason. And I started to think, it's funny. I mean, we're not just saying this in retrospect. I mean, we talked about this on the last pod. I mean, I thought there was a real chance that this thing could get out of hand. I just thought they were that much better than Kansas City in a lot of key areas. And it showed. And yeah, you look at the Washington game. I mean, this game, 95 points in 2 games. That's the most points ever in a 2-game span in the postseason, ties it. It's a lot of points. And their 4-game total in the playoffs is the most ever, 145, I think, most ever scored in a postseason by any team. Obviously, had an extra game, but a lot of teams play 4 games. It's as good as they were during the regular season. And we've said this about Saquon, but as good as the Eagles as a team were during the regular season, they found another level in the postseason. They really did. I mean, 3 of the games were double digits, and 2 of them could have scored as many points as they wanted. They found their best gear, their best version of themselves when it was most important. That's a really cool thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And like they put up all these points, but it wasn't just like, it wasn't just like the offense played well. The defense was unbelievable in this game. And we'll go through the offense and the defense, but I think it was so special in this Super Bowl because it was all 3 phases and it was like everyone. It was everyone to the point where I'll let people in on this. I was an MVP voter this year, and I told you at halftime I was the only person from Philadelphia who was nervous because I didn't know who in the heck I was going to vote for at that point. Full disclosure, I ended up voting for Jalen Hurts, and he won, and I think he's deserving of it. You could have voted for Josh Sweat. You could have voted for Cooper DeJean. You could have voted for Milton Williams. Like there were so many players on defense that you could have voted for, and it was like the entire defensive line played great. So at halftime, I'm slacking you, going, I'm nervous about this. I don't know what I'm going to do. Luckily, Jalen helped them pull away even more in the second half, and his final numbers were great. Even the interception, like it wasn't a great play, but he ended up having a really efficient game in a big moment.
I thought too. At one point, I was trying to convince you to vote for Avonte Maddox after that 4th down pass breakup. I don't think that gained a lot of traction, but yeah, I thought he did have the interception, but I just thought he commanded the game, and he was in control all night. I thought he did the right thing every snap, and whether it was running or throwing the ball away, which he didn't have that many incompletions. He completed 77% of his passes. It's 4th highest in Super Bowl history. But he always did the right thing. He took off at the right times. He went down at the right times. He looked fast, made a lot of plays. NFL record for quarterbacks, 72 rushing yards in a Super Bowl. Broke the record of 70 set by Jalen Hurts in 2022. I felt like he could do anything he wanted at any time, and 5 completions of 20 yards or more. So he was getting the ball down the field, which we talked about. I thought that was going to be important to make some plays down the field in the passing game. Did that.
He should have had another one if not for that silly OPI on the first drive.
Just ridiculous. I was afraid that was a sign of, all right, here come the refs.
I think there were a lot of people who watched that play and that penalty and thought, oh no, here we go.
Yeah. Yeah, that was ridiculous. But he was in complete command of the game, and he's 26 years old, and he's put together 2 really, really good Super Bowls now, and he's won what, 5 playoff games, 6 playoff games. He's 26 years old. I mean, what he's doing, the body of work he's putting together it's remarkable. Not a lot of quarterbacks have done what he's done. He's the 4th youngest quarterback to win a Super Bowl, 5th youngest, something like that. Roethlisberger, Russell, Brady, And I think there's one more, but he's 26, Dave. You know, what does his future look like? And he's going to be in another one. I mean, he's going to be in at least another one. He's not going anywhere. This team's not going anywhere. And Patrick Mahomes had a great quote about Jalen and just talked about how, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he said, you know, after 2 years ago when we played them, I said he's going to be back and he's going to win one. He said, I wish it wasn't against us, but he talked about just his ability to win and make plays in different ways, and we saw that tonight. Whether it was running at the right time, throwing downfield, dump off passes, he won this game by doing a lot of different things and doing them all equally well.
Yeah, he had a few of those like back-breaking scrambles that we're so used to seeing Mahomes make. Jalen made them in this game. The one interception, that was the only bad play, and honestly, I think he got baited into that throw a little bit, and then it probably needed to go on the outside a little bit more. But man, he made up for it. He was on fire with some of those deep shots. Obviously, the one to Devontae was kind of the exclamation point on this thing. Going through Jalen Hurts' numbers.
That's probably when you made up your mind to who the MVP was, that pass, right?
That sealed it. Yeah, I was leaning that way already, but that was a definite. He finished 17 for 22, 222 yards, 2 touchdowns in the pick, passer rating of 119.7. That's his highest in the playoffs. And then he also rushed for 72 yards, and he had that tush-push touchdown. Yeah.
His numbers probably weren't quite as remarkable as the last Super Bowl, but he's now put together 2 pretty darn good Super Bowls. And that, you know, the fumble in Glendale doesn't show up in his passing stats, but it was a pretty damaging play. Didn't have anything like that. Even the interception was down to the 6-yard line, so it's like a punt. So, it was. You can't play any better. You can throw for more yards. You can complete more passes. You can have higher passer rating, but for what this team needed tonight, he was perfect.
Yeah, and it didn't, like, it was a little slow start. They had the punt on the first drive after the silly OPI. Then they get the touchdown. Then there's interception. So, you know, 2 of your first 3 drives are a punt and an interception, and you're going, oh, this game could be close. But then, you know, they ended up putting together a nice little touchdown after the A.J. Brown after the Zach Bond interception. And then the second half, they were able to kind of run away with it.
Yeah, and it was a situation where you knew the defense was going to keep stopping them. I think the Chiefs' first 9 drives were, 6 punts, 2 interceptions, and a failed 4th down. And by then it was 34-0, and game was over. And they had 43 yards. Now they padded the numbers at the end, but I'm just going to choose to ignore that because it was irrelevant. To me, this was a 34. I might even write 34-0 in all my stories. But yeah, they poured it on, and they could have had more. How about Jake Elliott? We'll get to him, but first kicker in Super Bowl history with 3 field goals of 48 yards or more in the same Super Bowl.
Yeah, he was enjoying himself after the game, and he deserves it, man, because big question about him coming in, but man, he played well.
He only made 3 48-yarders in the entire regular season. He had 3 in the Super Bowl. It's a strange game sometimes.
It took the Chiefs forever, and we'll get to the defense. I don't know why I'm jumping around, but it took them forever just to get across midfield in this game.
Yeah, I think it was already 34-0 when they crossed midfield for the first time.
Yeah, unbelievable. We should finish up with offense, though. We mentioned the Jalen stats. Saquon got bottled up in this one. They really stacked the box to prevent him from finding some big holes. He had 25 carries for 57 yards, so a 2.3 average, but he did get the 30 yards necessary to have the greatest rushing season in NFL history, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and again, they made a choice. Spags made a choice. He's like, we're gonna stack the box like they've never seen and force Jalen to make plays through the air, and he did. And I think the thinking is, if we force them to throw more than they want to, then we can unleash our blitzes. But those blitzes weren't an issue. Jalen made plays against him. He ran away from him. He looks fast, which hasn't always been the case at the end of the year. He's really got his legs, his wheels, especially after that knee injury is a little concerning. But I thought Spags, look, they decided how they want to approach it, and it blew up in their face, basically.
I also want to mention Saquon caught 6 passes for 40 yards. And he also, on that Jahan Dotson play, had a great blitz pickup that allowed Jalen to step into that throw.
That Jahan Dotson play, which one?
Yeah, how about Jahan Dotson? 2 catches for 42 yards. That was his best game all year, aside from the Week 18 where the starters rested. So kudos to him, man.
About this. Yeah, go ahead.
I felt bad for him that he didn't get in the end zone on that one.
Yeah, it looked at first like he was in, but his knee was definitely down. But, we talked about this, like, you never know who's going to just pop up in a Super Bowl. And it's the Timmy Smith thing. Nobody had Jahan Dotson with 42 receiving yards on their bingo card. And I thought this was a real team game in that way. And this is actually the first time since week 3, I think, that Jalen completed passes to, like, I don't know, it was like 7 different guys. Goddard had a couple, Devontae, AJ, they all had a couple, and Saquon caught some. He used all his receivers, which was, I think it just makes them a better offense, makes him a better quarterback. He hasn't always done that.
Yeah, he completed one to 5 different receivers, and he targeted 6.
Yeah, completed at least 2 to 5 different receivers. First time since week 3. Tanner McKee did that, but as far as Jalen, and look, Jalen, and I get it. If you have Goddard, Devontae, and AJ, I mean, it makes sense. You want to throw it to those guys, but here we are in the Super Bowl, and you got Jahan Dotson wide open. Make a play. And I give that kid credit too, because I think at one point he went 6 straight games without a target, I think. But he always stayed ready, and he always said, when my time comes, I'm going to be ready. And he was.
Yeah, and I think that's difficult. I don't think that's easy when you're not seeing passes that often to just make a play. And he did that all year. Like, whenever the ball came his way, he caught it. And some big plays throughout the year for him.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. And, he had that touchdown and scramble drill. I don't know if it's too early to start thinking about next year, but I could see him being more of a piece of the puzzle. He's under contract. He'll probably be here. I think he will be here. I could see him maybe being more of a contributor, but I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. What else do we have on offense? We had the Dallas Goedert 2 for 27. He had that early deep crosser. That was a big play. That was like the first chunk play of the game for the Eagles, and that kind of got them going.
Yeah, it was a nice throw, nice catch and run. He's been such a big time playoff player who he really did not have a great regular season. He had an okay regular season. He missed a lot of games, but he was phenomenal in the postseason. He was their number 1 receiver. I just thought, we haven't talked about the O-line. I thought they were great. Pass blocking, I thought, was exceptional today.
Yeah, they really shut down everything the Chiefs threw at them. Then Chris Jones got hurt in the second half. But those edge rushers were just completely bottled up by Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson, which you kind of expected. They're not a premier group of edge rushers, but they're solid. I mean, they've gotten good pressure and they've gotten sacks this year. Yeah. Whether it's Karlaftis or Dana or Amenahu, like they've all gotten some pressure throughout the year.
Yeah, I thought it was a terrific job by the tackles and really the whole O-line, pass blocking, and the few times the pocket broke down, Jalen was really decisive about running, about when he was going to take off. Took off at the right times. Yeah,
I thought it was a pretty good game plan from Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
I thought he pushed the right buttons offensively. He put on a little show for his new home crowd there. I think it's pretty obvious he's going to take that Saints job, and it's going to be tough to replace him. The Eagles are going to have to go back to the drawing board, and maybe it's just Kevin Patullo. I think that after a Super Bowl win, that's easier to do, and I kind of think that's the way it's going to go. But, I thought there were times this year where Kellen Moore didn't bring his A game, and I thought the last 2 weeks of the season, he did a really nice job.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think there were 2 of his best games. And, it's tough. I mean, they're going to have to start over with a new guy. It'll be Jalen's 6th play caller in 6 years. But yeah, I thought Kellen was terrific today and 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. All right. You want to take a little break and we'll talk defense on the other side?
Sure.
All right. Let's do that.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and nissanusa.com today.
All right, we're back on the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. He's Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. Reuben, I want to read something to you. These are the possessions for the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 59.
What do you got?
Punt, 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 interception, punt, interception, punt. That's the first half.
I just got to say, before you go to the second half, I really admire your emphasis on the T in punt, just to kind of bring it home just how many punts there were. Go ahead, second half.
Punt, turnover on downs, touchdown, fumble, touchdown, touchdown. The touchdowns at the end don't really matter. I mean, this was an incredible performance by the Eagles defense. And it was everyone. I mean, everyone played a role in it. And that's what I think made it so special.
And that's what they've been doing all year. And I mean, this is the number one defense in the league and a Super Bowl defense. What do they have? 2 Pro Bowlers? Jalen Carter and Zach Bond. Yep. And it's not a defense of stars. It's a defense of togetherness and effort and communication and just team defense, just guys playing as one. And, you know, there are a couple of those sacks where, like, I didn't know who they were going to give it to because there's like 6 guys lying on top of Mahomes. They were just getting numbers to the ball, numbers to the quarterback. And that's what they do. And look, Zach Bond's incredible. He's been just phenomenal this year, and a few of these guys have. But there's no weak link on this defense in this group. And when you have that, it just makes it really tough to make plays against you. And that's what we saw.
Yeah, I mean, Vic Fangio did not blitz in this game. Not a single blitz in this game.
I thought he blitzed Zach Bond right at the very end on the touchdown, on the second to last touchdown.
Oh, I don't believe so. I don't know.
But I thought it was the only one. But yeah, I mean, that was obviously not part of the game plan, which was the right thing to do because he was able to get everybody in coverage and get pressure with the guys up front, which he likes to do. He said that during the week. He's like, that's what I want to do. I want to get pressure from the guys up front and let everyone else play coverage.
Yeah, and I had the stat at some point from Next Gen that like they were playing cover 4 at like a crazy high rate, which is a good idea against Mahomes. If your front can get home, like if your front can get after him and you can keep eyes on the quarterback, yeah, it ended up working out really well. That Cooper DeJean pick 6 was pretty special.
I thought that was a ball game, because that was 10-0 game. They're driving, and that made it 17-0. It wasn't over, but it was kind of over. I mean, you kind of felt like the Chiefs just ran out of steam after that, and Eagles kind of began rolling after that. What a play. And I mean, so many things. Obviously, it was his birthday. It was his first career interception. He's the first rookie with a Super Bowl pick 6 since 1985.
It was the Eagles' first Super Bowl interception. It
was. And it helped fulfill my bold prediction of 2 Eagles interceptions by a team that's never had a Super Bowl interception. As obviously, Zach Bond got the second one, but there's just a lot of cool things. I mean, this is a kid who just turned 22 today. Dave, what were you doing when you were 22?
Graduating college.
Yeah. I think I was a senior in high school, but I mean, to be 22 and just I spent some time with Quignon and Cooper on, I guess it was Thursday, and talked to Slay about them and talked to Christian Parker about them and just the effect that Slay's had on them. And you just can't stop being impressed with their poise, their maturity, their seriousness toward the game. they're rookies in name only, and they're just. I guess I'm paraphrasing Vic Fangio here when he was talking about Jaden Daniels, but they're rookies in birth certificate only. I don't think your birth certificate says if you're a rookie, but I get the point. And you just kind of felt like they could. I thought it'd be Quignon today with a play like that, but Cooper, a great job to get in the end zone too. He went through some serious traffic the last 10 yards, and
he's really a return man.
Yeah. Yeah, he was. I guess he was in the mix for MVP there for a bit.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I've never really watched a game so consumed by who should the MVP be. But yeah, for a while I had him kind of on the leaderboard, and then Sweat overtook him, and then Jalen did enough to make up for it because
with a little Vontae Maddox in there.
Well, honestly, you look at Milton Williams had a heck of a game too.
He did.
So this is the funny thing. I mean, Howie is super excited. I talked to him after the game a little bit. He's super excited, but when he gets back to the office tomorrow or the next day, he's going to look at this and go, wait a second. Josh Sweat had 2.5 sacks. Milton Williams had 2 sacks in the Super Bowl. 2 of my most important free agents coming up.
And Zach Bond had an interception. He's a free agent. Yeah.
Yeah. They already knew that was going to be expensive.
Yeah. Josh Sweat made himself some money today.
Yeah, he did.
That was kind of like the Derek Barnett deal. He had that great NFC Championship game in 2004. Not Derek Barnett. I'm sorry. Derek Burgess.
Oh, okay.
I say Derek Barnett. Yeah, he had like 3 sacks on Michael Vick in the NFC Championship game, made a fortune with the Raiders. Ended up having 16 sacks and made a couple Pro Bowls, but he made himself some money, and Milton sure did. Milton's a really good player. And man, that forced fumble was a just relentless effort on his part.
Yeah, I mean, everyone on the defensive line just played so well today. Jordan Davis had another sack. Jordan Davis had 1 sack all year. He had 2 in the playoffs. Yeah,
he did. He was, look, everybody up front made a play. Like everybody on the defense made a play.
Yeah. Even Brandon Graham coming back 2.5 months after tearing his triceps. He should have drawn a hold on the one. I don't know why it wasn't called, but he had some good pressure.
He did.
Didn't play a ton.
No. Did you have any sense it was about 10 snaps, 12 snaps?
Maybe. I checked a little bit during the game. He had 2 at one point, so he didn't play a ton. But
everybody who's ever had 12 has had 2 at some point. He probably did more interviews than snaps.
I doubt that. He actually didn't do many interviews.
Okay.
Yeah. It took him a while. He was just celebrating in the locker room for so long. And then eventually he did, by the way, he did give me some crap in the tunnel as he was driving by on a cart. And he said, "You believe now?"
He's the best. I think I told you somebody asked him about, I was standing at his podium on Wednesday or Thursday, and somebody asked him about, when people called him a first round bust early in his career, and he just looked at me and said, "It was him. He was the one doing it," which isn't true, but and he knows that. It's just, he's just having fun.
I'm looking at all the numbers from these defensive linemen.
And BG
Hunt with a 1/2 sack, Jalen Carter with 2 QB hits, Nolan Smith with 2 QB hits. It was literally everyone who played today had some kind of, like, even Moro Ujima had a tackle for loss.
Yeah.
Like everyone had an impact in this game defensively.
That's incredible. Yeah.
You see Cooper come off. It looked like he was just cramping up, and then Avante goes in, and the very first play, they target him. He bats down that pass.
That was a heck of a play. And
I was just down.
It was 4th and 4. I wrote about him in my observations just because I just think he kind of exemplifies what this team's all about. He's a guy who, he got cut during the offseason. He took a pay cut. He got benched, obviously, during the bye week from the slot. But, he just kept kept working. He just kept in case they needed him, and he goes out there. And I love his attitude. I had a good chat with him a few weeks ago. Christian Parker was raving about him on Thursday. He said he's his favorite player he's ever been around, just because of that, because he's all about the team. He was talking about how much of his experience he was sharing with Cooper when Cooper replaced him. Not a lot of guys are going to do that. And, he just talked about how good he's been with all the young guys. And I really admire that in Avante. And it's not an easy thing to do when you lose your job to somebody, to be there and help them. He's a true team player, and it's kind of just what this team's all about.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There weren't even like any bad defensive plays for most of the game. Eventually, the Chiefs scored some points. I guess C.J. Gardner-Johnson was upset at himself for the first touchdown. He threw his helmet, which is kind of telling that like this was a game where they're cruising. That made it 34-6.
Yeah,
with 34 seconds left in the third quarter, and he was that mad about it. Now it gave up the shutout. I'm guessing that was part of it, but in a way, like that's a good thing to see, that he kind of gets lost out there a little bit, gives up a touchdown, and is infuriated that it's now 34-6.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. That's him. That's what he's all about. And
I like that they kept up their aggressiveness a little bit in the second half. You don't want to completely go into a shell.
No, that's true. I thought the Gatorade bath was a little early.
I mean, they could have done the Gatorade bath during the halftime performance.
It would have been the highlight of the halftime performance. But yeah, it was just a weird game. You don't expect to be playing out the string for a half of football. It was something.
Yeah, they really were though. And you look up and you see Kenny Pickett in there. You go, oh well, that's pretty crazy. They did that in the Super Bowl. You're not supposed to boat race in the Super Bowl.
I thought he didn't look real sharp. I thought on that one pass. So I got Tanner McKee's number 2 now going into next year.
That's good. Special teams, Jake Elliott. I mean, look, I think we were all right to question him going into these playoffs and into this game, but I got to the stadium super early today. About like 5 hours early. I'm up in the press box. There's one guy on the field, Jake Elliott. Mentally going, well, not even kicking yet, just by himself, mentally going through the kicks on every part of the field. And I'm up in the press box a million miles away. It feels like I'm trying to think, like, what is this guy thinking right now? Is he nervous? Is he confident? Like, what's he doing? And then to see him go out there and drill all 4 of his field goals, finally hit one from 50, and to hit all of his point afters. I mean, what a clutch performance.
And he really had to hit 7 field goals because they kept committing penalties on his makes. Yeah, and so he's 10 for 11 this postseason. He was 10 for 11 in the postseason. He's not kicking anymore. And now 26 for 27 in his career in the postseason. And those weren't chippies. There was I think a 29 and then a 48, and a 50, thanks to the penalties. Like I said, the first kicker ever to make 3 from 48 now in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I give him so much credit. And yeah, it was fair to question him and wonder what was going on and have trepidation when he was lining up for a big kick in the playoffs. But he's been money, and he had the ability to turn it on when it mattered most. And I wasn't sure he could do that. I don't know what that means for his future, but you feel a lot better about him now than you did a month ago.
Yeah. Braden Mann had a good game.
He was really good.
Punts.
Yeah.
Yeah. His 2 punts down KC, 1 at the 12, 1 at the 6. I thought Cooper DeJean looked good as a return man. That
13-yarder was nice early.
It was nifty. He got out of some trouble and picked up some yardage that wasn't really there, which he has the ability to do.
Yeah.
So they made the right decision. I know it was tough for Brent Covey not to be activated for this game, but Cooper performed well there. Kenny Gainwell made a heck of a tackle on one kickoff. I don't know if you could tell on the TV copy. There was a lot of space on this kickoff if Kenny Gainwell doesn't make a tackle.
Yeah. I couldn't see the field. I couldn't see, but it certainly was a nice play that he made.
Yeah, I mean, there was no one on the other side of the field. We're talking at least another. He might have housed it. Like it was. There was a lot of space out there. Maybe he doesn't house it, but like he saved at least 30 yards, 40 yards.
Yeah, he's really been a valuable guy on this team, doing whatever he's asked of.
I think that's all the stuff I have specifically about this game, just from the game itself. But can we talk legacy a little bit here? Because not just individually, but they just prevented a three-peat. They've now been to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. And like you said earlier, they're not going anywhere. They have a 26-year-old quarterback. They have 10 of 11 offensive starters under contract next year. You look at the defense, so many young players, so many players on rookie contracts. Like, are we seeing like a chance that the Eagles could build their own dynasty? I know that's tough to say in the afterglow a couple hours after the Super Bowl ends, but I think that's realistic.
Yeah, I do as well. And everything is in place to make that happen. You have an owner who's willing to open up his checking account for whoever Howie in this case wants. And he gives his scouts every opportunity to get the players they want. You got a coach who's, fifth winningest coach in history, been to 2 Super Bowls in his first 4 years. You have a 26-year-old quarterback who's just named Super Bowl MVP. He's had 2 great performances in a Super Bowl. And like you said, you have this young roster that's only going to get better. I mean, this is the youngest defense in the league, and look what they just did. There's a lot, and obviously, you got to bring back the key guys that you talked about who are up, but this defense could get even better and more consistent. And this is their first year together. There's a brand new defense with a new coaching staff, and there's no reason this. And it struck me today that, for so long, like Eagles fans had to watch you go back to the 70s and the Steelers were winning Super Bowls every year. And then the Broncos were winning them. And then, the 49ers won a bunch. And there are these as close to a dynasty as you can have in the NFL. Just Cowboys won 3 in 4 years, and then the Niners win a couple. And then the Patriots won a ton of them. And then the Chiefs win a bunch of them. And in this whole generation, like the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes Chiefs and the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick Patriots are like the 2 dynasties of the last generation. And the Eagles knocked off both of them in the last 8 years. And that's how you become, and I don't want to use the word dynasty because you need more than 1 championship or 2 in 8 years. You need to be a perennial Super Bowl team, and they're close to that. I mean, certainly 3 in 8 years is a lot, but still not there, but they can become that. And I feel like they're on track to maybe do that, to be that team, to become what the Steelers were in the 70s and what we saw the Broncos and the Cowboys and the Niners do. And they got there by beating the 2 preeminent dynasties of our generation. So, Jeff Lurie is 77. I don't know how long he's going to keep doing what he's doing. Howie's not going anywhere. He's 49. Nick's not going anywhere. Jalen's not going anywhere. So the pieces are in place for true sustained success. And that's a really exciting piece. Now, look, you never know what's going to happen. It's hard to keep going back. And we keep seeing teams like whoever won it last year is always the favorite the next year, and they never win it. But I don't think this team's going anywhere.
Yeah, I really don't. And you're right. Like, we'll see what happens, but I don't think it's too early to start thinking about, like, overall in the grand scheme of things, what this generation of Eagles football could mean. Don't take it for granted. If you're a fan of this team, this is special. This is special stuff. To see them pull off a win like that against a team that was going for a three-peat, a team that beat them 2 years ago, and to beat them soundly like this. Like, this was never a game. This was
Right.
just a demolition of a team that should not get demolished. It was an incredible performance. It's one of the best performances I've ever seen.
Yeah, I feel the same
It
way.
probably is the best performance I've ever seen. No, it is. What am I talking about? Of course it was. They just crushed a 2-time defending Super Bowl champion completely.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it. And it's a team that doesn't lose like that, especially in Super Bowls. They lost the one at Tampa. They got blown out. But yeah, it's a rare thing that we saw. And, the Chiefs are a weird team. We talked about them so much that, like, they were doing it with smoke and mirrors. They kept winning these last second comebacks and these close games. But you wondered, like, what if somebody just keeps punching them in the face and doesn't let them get in the position where, a last minute touchdown is going to win the game. And the Eagles did that. I mean, they pushed him around. They bullied him for 3 quarters. They just didn't even let him come up for air. And you don't see the Chiefs get it handed to them like that.
Yeah, the Eagles were not intimidated by the aura of the Chiefs. I don't know about you, I sensed that this week.
Absolutely.
There was just such a calm confidence with this Eagles team going into the Super Bowl. It was like they knew they were the better team, and if they just played the way they've been playing, they were going to win. They knew they were capable of this. It wasn't like it was very different to me, the feeling of this team, than it was 2 years ago. And that's not to say 2 years ago was bad. I don't think they were, had a bad mindset or anything, but I think it took going through that to have the mindset they had this week. I don't think you can have one without the other. And they were just so confident all week. It was like they just knew all week that they were going to win this game. Now, I don't know if they thought they were going to blow them out like they did, but that was something that just struck me all week, was how confident they were.
Yeah, I felt the exact same way. And I think there was a very clear difference between 22 and this year. I don't think it would have been possible to have this mentality 2 years ago. I think you were just saying, I think they had to experience that. And I think Nick's whole emphasis on the next play, the next practice, the next game, the next day, whatever it is, just really served him well. And there was no aura, there's no mystique about playing in the Super Bowl. It was literally just another game to them. There was no doubt in anybody's mind on that team that they were going to win this game. I mean, they played like it. They acted like it all week. You could just tell they were so locked in, and they just went out and did what they've been doing, and they were the better team, and it showed for 50 minutes, and the 50 minutes that counted.
Who benefited more from a legacy perspective with this Super Bowl win? Nick Sirianni or Jalen Hurts?
Well, I was going to say Howie most of all, because he's got 2 now. And
okay.
He's got, and Lane, Lane's Hall of Fame candidacy. This doesn't hurt. He's got 2 rings on top of 2 All-Pros and 6 Pro Bowls, 5 or 6. But between Nick and Jalen, I would say Jalen. I think quarterbacks are judged more than anyone on Super Bowls. Certainly doesn't hurt Nick's, but you start stacking Super Bowls as a quarterback and these kind of performances and playoff wins. Yeah, that puts you in a different category. God, it wasn't that long ago that people were like, is he a top 10 quarterback? Is he a top 20? Is
he the guy?
He's the top 1 quarterback.
He's the guy.
I mean, all those, how many, all those guys who put up the big stats, the, Burrows and Lamar Jacksons and Josh Allen's, I almost said Jared Goff, but he did win. But I mean, these guys they haven't won anything, and they've got all these fancy stats and touchdowns. And, I'll take the guy that wins. And people that always say winning isn't a quarterback stat, They're just people that don't like Jalen Hurts. I'm convinced of that. They want a different standard for him. Something to be said for winning, and that's all he does. He just wins. And yeah, so I think I wrote a column this week that if he won, like his Hall of Fame candidacy starts to take shape now. You get to 2 Super Bowls and win 1. I mean, look, he's got to do it for a few more years, and there's no doubt in my mind he's going to get to another one, probably win it. But he's on the fast track for that kind of stuff, and I don't know how long he wants to play, and things can change. Certainly, who knows? New coordinator comes in. Maybe AJ's not here, so there's just a lot can change. But man, so far 4 years, not a lot of quarterbacks have done what he's done in 4 years. A very, very short list, like Mahomes, Brady, Roethlisberger, Russell. That's it. In the Super Bowl era. Sorry?
Pretty amazing.
Bart Starr, but I mean, you go back pre-Super Bowl, but yeah, in the Super Bowl era, it's a very short list.
Nick Sirianni is going to get paid now.
I would think he'd get a new contract.
Yeah, I think so.
You don't think they'll keep him waiting like last year?
I'm glad you mentioned Howie, though, because you're right. I mean, to win 2 Super Bowls with 2 completely different teams. I mean, it was impressive that he got to 2 Super Bowls with 2 completely different teams. But now to win them, I mean, he's been to 3 Super Bowls. I mean, he's fast tracking his way to the Hall of Fame, which, like you've mentioned, is kind of rare for general managers, but it's hard to argue with the results because so many of the multiple Super Bowl winners have done it with the same coach or the same quarterback. For him to do it with different ones is to me like more impressive feat. He had to build 2 of these teams.
Yeah, no, that's true. And you have guys like, Chuck Noll and Bradshaw and, I mean, Aikman won him with 2 different coaches, but same GM. It's maybe the best thing that ever happened to Howie was getting demoted after the 14 season for a year and really taking that year and learning how to do it a different way and do it the right way. And since then, I mean, this team has done nothing but, I mean, since 2017, gosh, they've been to 3 Super Bowls and had 1 losing season. That's pretty remarkable. You go back to 2000, 25 years, they've had 5 losing seasons and gone to 4 Super Bowls. That's a Jeff Lurie stat, not a Howie stat, because he wasn't here. He was here. He was part of the organization, just wasn't GM yet. But yeah, all 3 of those guys, really all 4 of those guys, when you start talking about multiple Super Bowls, that's when the Hall of Fame notices. And, Lurie's taken 4 teams. He's built or owned 4 Super Bowl teams. Howie's got 3, and Jalen and Nick have 2, and counting, because I would expect those numbers to go up.
Yeah, I would too. Any odds and ends you have for me here?
No, I think we kind of covered everything. I do think, we had a lot of footage of the celebrations going on, and I've always believed that this city is maybe not unique, but very unusual in that, I mean, this team's been around. Well, what did I do? This team has been around for 92 years? 92 years, the same city with the same name. There's not a lot of, teams that stay in one place. And because of that, you have these generations of Eagles fans in the same family where, my dad, I mean, how many times do you hear my dad went to Franklin Field or my grandfather went to Shibe Park? And, gosh, I met that guy at California Pizza Kitchen who was 88 and his first game was like 1949. And he remembered everything about it. He was, we're talking about Tommy Thompson and, these guys that are only names to me in Pro Football Reference. And I just think it's more special for Eagles fans because this is something that kind of links them to their parents, their grandparents, their great grandparents who were all Eagles fans, and And it's just something that they can share and have in common. And even if, your grandparents are still not around anymore, it's something that kind of has more meaning because what the Eagles meant to them. You don't get that in Jacksonville. You don't get that in Phoenix. You don't get that in Kansas City. You get that maybe in Green Bay, in Chicago, in Philly. I don't even know if Boston you get it because they play out in Foxborough, maybe. Jets and Giants, I guess you'd get it if they ever won anything. But it's really unique to, Steelers. It's really, the Rust Belt and the Northeast. It's a unique thing, and I think that makes it more special for a lot of Eagles fans.
I can tell you a lot of those Eagles fans were in the Superdome tonight. I mean, holy cow, that was like they took over that stadium.
It seemed that way.
It was like it was so loud. There were loud Eagles chants. Coop, like you could hear the loud audible Coop. They even started mocking the Chiefs tomahawk thing. It was a complete takeover, and it felt that way in the city during the week. Like it felt like there were more Eagles fans. You can never really tell. I was like, maybe the Eagles fans are just out more than the Chiefs fans. But no, like that there were way more Eagles fans than Chiefs fans in that stadium.
Yeah, it sure seemed that way. It's a tough thing to quantify when you're watching on TV, but it really seemed that way. And even like an hour after the game, they were still there screaming and going crazy during the maybe half an hour or whatever. Once the celebration went on, it was it was pretty cool.
On the field after the game, I asked, I think it was Sidney Brown about the fans, and he went, "They booed Taylor Swift." Did you see that? They booed Taylor Swift, and they did an audible boo for Taylor Swift shown on the jumbotron.
That's good. I like that.
What did you think of the anthem?
I missed the anthem.
Oh, okay.
I missed it. It was John Baptiste, right?
Yeah, I thought it was good.
Yeah,
I also did a flyover.
I'm sorry, what's that? There was
did a flyover
over a dome.
Over the dome.
Could you hear it at least?
No. But then later on, they did bring all the people who did the flyover, and they like had them on the field and gave them a nice round of applause. But I don't know, what's the point of a flyover over a dome?
I love flyovers, by the way, over open air stadiums, not really domes. But okay. I've seen that happen before. I guess it's a TV thing.
Yeah, it probably looks cool.
Yeah.
You were not a fan of the halftime show. I kind of wasn't either. I thought it was a little boring, and I actually like Kendrick Lamar, but I thought it was not the best. So he has one song called Rigor Mortis, which is my favorite Kendrick Lamar song, and it has a bunch of horns in it. And I thought that would have been really cool in New Orleans to have like a marching band out there somehow playing that with him, but didn't happen.
Or you just have Fleetwood Mac and do Tusk and have the USC marching band, but I guess they wouldn't do that in New Orleans.
There were a lot of celebrities at this game. Paul McCartney was at this game.
I saw him, yeah. He actually did the halftime show in the Eagles-Patriots 2004 Super Bowl in Jacksonville. Paul McCartney.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was that great. He was doing Hey Jude, and they had everyone in the stadium holding up signs at the end during the coda when he's, saying "na na na." So you have the entire side of the stadium, like maybe 16,000 people holding up these signs that said "NA" on them. And Eagles PR guy Derek Boyko said, "What a nice tribute to Nay Brown."
It's good.
I remember that.
That's all I've got. I mean, that was unbelievable. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Yeah.
Can I ask you one question? Next year's Super Bowl is in Santa Clara. Are the Eagles there?
I
need it. I need a yes or no.
Right now, I'm going to say yes, but I'm also drenched in beer from this celebration. So, I think. Look, it's tough to get back. We know it's tough to get back. Crazy things can happen. It's easier to get back when you win it. We've seen that play out.
Yeah.
And I see no reason why they shouldn't be in the mix next year. This is a good team. They're not going anywhere. And yeah, we got a long time to talk about that, but I think they're at least in the mix, right? Like, I think there's a really good chance they're back there.
Yeah, I do too. And it's going to be a fun off season. It's been a great year. I mean, I've had so much fun doing the pod and just meeting all the viewers and listeners, and I just appreciate you guys so much. So many people have been with us since like the first days of training camp. We were doing a pod every day after every practice. And we met a lot of them out on the streets in New Orleans, lugging our gear around with Spencer, and they're great, and we really appreciate it. It's we'll keep doing them during the off season, but it's been a fantastic year.
Yep, parade on Friday.
Oh, is it Friday?
It'll be a Friday parade. Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. The pods will keep coming. Thanks everyone for listening to us all week and all year. We really do appreciate it. One way you can show us you appreciate us is by subscribing wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, you can click that like button and subscribe there as well. Rube, any final words?
Just thanks to everybody.
Up the 2024 season.
Thanks to everybody. It's been an incredible ride. We're not going anywhere. We'll be back with you soon, and enjoy it. This doesn't happen a lot. Enjoy this.
The Eagles are Super Bowl 59 champions, 40-22. The city's going crazy. Celebrate, everyone. Thanks again for Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. This has been Eagle Eye, presented by Nissan. We'll talk to you soon.